My Hero Academia's Villain Hunt arc was probably one of the most things I was anticipated for Deku's development and for the series as a whole, but sadly, the way I saw it, it was nothing more of a disappointment in another arc that I felt like wasn't really good for Deku or him as a character. Obviously, this is completely subjective, but this is my video on why I think the Villain Hunt kind of lost everything that made it special and why I didn't enjoy reviewing it every time it came out weekly. The first thing I want to get off my chest really quickly is Mirio's return. In my personal opinion, in the war arc near the end, I think Mirio shouldn't have come back. Yes, he got his quirk back, all for the hype factor, but he doesn't really do anything to impact the war. He just is there, and he's just like every other character, is just there and does nothing of importance. I feel like Horikoshi only brought him back for the hype factor and for fan service just so the fans could see him again. In my personal opinion, if he was so important and the reveal was so impactful, why didn't he just join the top 3 pro heroes when they were off hunting villains in the Villain Hunt? I feel like Horikoshi could have done a better job in bringing back Mirio and putting more impact, making him be in the Villain Hunt arc, or just have him get his powers back later on in the story. Now, enough about my personal gripes with the end of the war arc, let's get into the actual meat and potatoes. But before we begin, 89% of you guys are not subscribed, so it would be really appreciated if you subscribed right now. Helps me a lot, and it makes me really appreciate the support that you guys give me. Now, let's get into actually the video. Now, obviously, the Villain Hunt being Deku's own personal arc, I do have some gripes about it. Even though I think that the beginning is very fantastic, it shows Deku's heroism and how he's suffering with the weight on the world being on his shoulders, and him having to carry the load of being the #1 hero, or the strongest hero who could possibly take down All For One. You can see it deep dive in the way he acts, the way he looks, and the way he moves. My first major issue with the Villain Hunt arc was how they treated the top 3 pro heroes being Hawks, Endeavor, and Best Jeanist. Now, in the war arc, we already saw that Best Jeanist return and how much of an impact it made in the war arc, how he was able to subdue Gigantomachia. Even though Hawks doesn't really have his wings, we already know that they might be coming back pretty soon, but personally, I think that Hawks should be decommissioned, but that's just my personal gripe. And Endeavor being the one who's the #1 hero and should be the one as a replacement of All Might being the #1 hero. But they do jack shit in this arc. Now, obviously, I know there's going to be that one person that says, well, duh, it's Deku's solo arc like you just said, so of course that the pro heroes are not going to do anything. Well, obviously, I know it's Deku's solo arc, but shouldn't the pro heroes at least do something to lessen the load off of Deku? But they don't. They're just treated as a joke and treated as just another second fiddle, or pretty useless in the matter of the fact. But honestly, I still like the clash between Lei Nagant and Deku. It just shows the naivety, which is Deku, and somebody who has seen Hero Society rotten at its core, which is Lei Nagant. Personally, I think we should have spent more and more time with Deku and to see how further down he goes and going into his mental state in the Villain Hunt arc, instead of him having to be saved by Class 1A a bit too early. Because I feel like Class 1A coming in, it's still good, but it feels like a cop-out. Now, obviously, Class 1A coming in and saving Deku, again, isn't really bad. It's not a bad moment, but it feels like all the trauma, everything that Deku went through this arc, versing Muscular, versing Lei Nagant, everything he went through is completely gone by just a conversation or a damn bath that they give him. This is bad for Deku as an MC because everything that we went through in this arc with him, it feels like nothing has really been added to the stakes. It feels like everything has been washed away. You could just assume that, yeah, Deku still has mental trauma and he's still there, but it's just assuming. We don't really know if it's still there. Maybe it's just completely washed away and it's never talked about again. That's why I never really gave a damn for Uraraka's speech, because even though it's a good character moment for her, I feel like Horikoshi was just adding stuff in. It's like, she's really saving Deku. Well, no shit, because we're watching it happen. You don't need to tell us that it's happening. I feel like Horikoshi bailed Deku out too soon for him to actually get a deep dive into his mental traumas and everything that he's went through in this arc. Everything that Deku went through this arc, it's never touched upon again. It's never brought up again. It's never touched upon in his mental psyche. It just feels like Horikoshi speed through this whole arc and remove the consequences on Deku being alone by himself. Even though I know this is not a part of the Villain Hunt arc, I just want to talk about the Star and Stripes versus Shigaraki fight pretty briefly here. It was a good fight, but you kind of already know what happened. Shigaraki, already beat Star and Stripes, steals her quirk, but Star and Stripes surprisingly is able to make a vestige of herself, destroying multiple quirks from Shigaraki, and now she is dead, which makes her a good plot device. well, a pretty average one at best. Because if we're being honest, I didn't really care about Star and Stripes dying. I didn't care enough because all she did was buy the heroes a week for them to prepare for Shigaraki. Now, the last thing I want to touch upon was Deku and All Might finally separating in the Villain Hunt arc. Horikoshi makes it seem like might be their last time talking. And it's Deku finally thinking that he has surpassed All Might in every single way, and he doesn't want All Might to worry anymore. But in reality, he doesn't want All Might to slow him down, because if All Might gets hurt, he can't protect himself, and Deku can only do so much, trying not to put the load onto All Might. And it feels like Horikoshi is setting up that this might be their final time talking. Horikoshi makes us feel like this could be their final time talking, and that the drama that they have, even if they do reunite, it will be something that would be heartbreaking and something that would be heartwarming, seeing them back together again as a unit and as a team. The reuniting of Deku and All Might could be something of a spectacle, an emotional moment for both Deku and All Might to finally have. It's something that could actually add a bit of depth to Deku and his mental trauma in the Villain Hunt. But sadly, that didn't happen. And it doesn't even feel like when All Might finally sees Deku, it doesn't feel like the heart pull that you get. It just feels like a laugh. It feels like a gag. And I just don't like it. Because it made it seem like that these guys were going to not see each other again. It made it seem like this is probably the last conversation they're going to have. And if they did meet each other, it was going to be heartwarming. It was going to be heartbreaking. It was going to be tearful for Deku and All Might. But no, it's played off as a joke. Even when some scenes with, Deku and Ida finally holding hands and Ida trying to save Deku from himself and from the path that he's going on, I feel like that is more emotional than whatever All Might did in chapter 327 in reuniting with Deku. Even if I feel like it's too early for them to reunite, even though I feel like that Deku and All Might shouldn't reunite very soon, you can still feel the impact with Deku and Ida because you can feel the connection between these two. It's not played off as a joke. It's played off as an emotional impact on both characters in their journeys. Pretty sad because now I feel like Deku and his friends and My Hero Academia are going at a fast pace because it's going to end in a year if you guys didn't know. And with that, I feel like Horikoshi's trying to wrap up multiple storylines and plot threads with multiple characters. And that would mean Deku's Villain Hunt arc and the reunion that All Might and Deku were supposed to have. Even though that may be the case, and he may be rushing, I can still have my critiques. I can still not like this. And I'm not enjoying MHA as I used to because right now I feel like everything's so fast-paced. Everything's so kind of boring and not really interesting. Even with the new UA trailer reveal, I feel like that, at best, is a 7 out of 10. Obviously, if you enjoyed this, and you enjoyed that My Hero Academia's Villain Hunt arc and the way it ended, and enjoy the pace that My Hero Academia is going on, I'm fine with that. I'm glad that you're liking something that I don't like. I'm glad that you're liking a series that I love, but an arc that I have to critique and I don't love. But it's all subjective in my personal opinion. I can have my gripes and you can love whatever you love. It's relatively sad because the Villain Hunt had one of the strongest starts of an MHA arc. It was very perfect. It showed what Deku learned from the Vestige world and the promise that he said to Nana Shimura that he would try to understand his villains before fighting them, which he did against Muscular and Lane Nagant. He did that to most of his villains, but every trauma he went through just completely got washed away at the end, and it feels like all the stakes were gone. Now, enough of my rambling on for this video, and if you did like my personal critiques on the Villain Hunt arc, and you agree or disagree, comment down below, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell notification. Always stay notified whenever I upload a new video. It helps with the YouTube algorithm and pushes my video to a ton of amazing people. Now, let me stop wasting your time any further. It has been the Red Cloak, and I'm going to head up out of here, guys, and see you later. Peace out.